While we remain standing, Your Excellency, allow me to invite Pastor Ambassador Arthur Adambi to lead us in a prayer before we make progress with our session.
Let us bow our heads for a prayer. Baba yetu wa mbinguni, tunakushukuru kwa siku hii uliotujalia. Asante kwa kutusafirisha salama kutoka pembe zote za dunia na kutujumuisha hapa nyumbani Kenya. Tunaomba uwe nasi na utuongoze katika shughuli zote kwenye mkutano huu wa mabalozi. Aidha, tunawaombea wote watakaokuja kutufunza mambo mbalimbali. Zaidi ya yote, tunaiombea nchi yetu ya Kenya pamoja na rais wetu uendelee kutupa amani na umoja. Tunaomba haya yote tukiamini katika jina la Yesu Kristo aliye Bwana na mkombozi wetu, na sote tuseme amina.
Let us kindly take our seats. Your Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and also Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Cabinet Secretary for Health, Honorable Aden Duale, all Principal Secretaries present, led by PS Singoe and PS Rosalind Jogu, all senior government officials present, ambassadors, high commissioners, special envoys, and distinguished guests present. Your Excellency, allow me at this point to invite Honorable Singoe, Dr. Singoe, to lead us in the program from here. Let's give him a clap as he approaches the stage. Welcome, PS Singoe.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief. Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi. Excellency, Cabinet Secretaries, Excellency, Ambassadors, the Chief Executive of Equity Bank, Dr. James Mwangi, and our friend Felix. Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say hamjambo. Good morning. Your Excellency, when ambassadors or when an ambassador is summoned, it's never quite good news necessarily. It is serious business. If you are summoned by your host state, it means there is serious information that you're being given. But if you're summoned by capital for instructions, then most likely there are also very, very serious things to be discussed. Your Excellency, we summoned not an ambassador, but your ambassadors who are appointed by your hand to this conference. Yes, it is called the 19th convening, but for us, it is a coming together because we are in a way at a moment of reckoning. Reckoning, Your Excellency, because externally, the globe is going through tremendous challenges. Challenges that now compel us to think together as one about how we can protect our national interest. But again, Your Excellency, it's also a moment of reckoning because internally, through your leadership, you have summoned the nation to focus her attention to an extremely progressive agenda. And you have made the determination that you want to take this nation to a first world status within our lifetime. Now, Your Excellency, that's a gigantic task. And these, your ambassadors, stand in a place of uniqueness because they are your frontline soldiers with respect to the mobilization of resources and the curation of partnerships. That's the reason we are gathered this morning, Your Excellency, and over the next 3 days, to be able to agree together what our call of action is and how we must conduct our diplomacy in these intense and disruptive times. If you permit me, Your Excellency, we are already repositioning the way we do business within the foreign mission and within the foreign ministry. First, Your Excellency, with respect to diplomatic infrastructure across the globe, we have, at the moment, within 29 missions, well over 60 pieces of property. These pieces of property, they may be chancelleries, they may be head of mission houses, etc., etc. This infrastructure, Your Excellency, is not optimized. As a result, we are paying in excess of 15% of our recurrent expenditure, which is about 3 billion, towards rent. Over the last 1 year, Your Excellency, because of your leadership and your innovative ideas around financing, we are talking with National Treasury to develop a program for the optimization of these assets through the PPP framework. And I'm pleased, Your Excellency, to say that already about 10 of these properties are being pipelined for pilot development. Secondly, Your Excellency, on the economic diplomacy side, we are on the verge of rolling out a comprehensive program that would enable us to deal with the way we do our economic diplomacy differently. And that's why James Mwangi and Felix are here this morning, because we've been working around a partnership in that respect. Thirdly, Your Excellency, we are working with you in the agenda around positioning Nairobi as the global hub for multilateralism in the global south. In that respect, Your Excellency, late last year we commissioned a study to look at how other multilateral stations are conducting their business. What kind of privileges are they putting forward? What kind of benefits, what kind of infrastructure and institutional arrangements have been put in place to ensure that these capitals can attract more diplomatic capital, to their jurisdiction. As a result of that, Your Excellency, that study is now complete. We are revamping and reinvigorating our privileges and immunities framework. And for the very first time, towards the mid of this year, we will be convening a conference on privileges and immunities, bringing together over 400 organizations that already enjoy this status within our capital, and asking ourselves the question, number one, what are you doing for Kenya and with Kenya? And then number two, how better can we serve you? Lastly, Your Excellency, we are also pivoting towards the people. By that I mean making diplomacy less about sitting in hotels and more about service provision and about explaining why we do what we do in the way we do it to the people. We're working with young people through the Kenya Model United Nations program, as well as our diplomacy machinani to be able to advance that imperative. Your Excellency, that's how we are retooling our current toolbox, and it is our persuasion that with that and with your inspired leadership in the manner in which you have positioned our country, Your Excellency, our diplomacy will stand even more elevated. Allow me with those few words, Your Excellency, to yield the floor now to His Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Dr. Musalia.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, my brother, the Honorable Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, distinguished guests, diplomats, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, we are greatly honored by your gracious presence at the 19th edition of the Kenya Ambassadors Conference. Today is a Saturday. We have pulled you away from the field. So bear with us. For decades, we have maintained this noble tradition of convening core actors in our foreign policy formulation and implementation to reflect on our achievements, deliberate on the challenges that we face in the execution of our mandate, and most importantly, develop forward-looking and sustainable solutions that advance Kenya's national interests. The conference presents an annual opportunity for our envoys to engage at high level, including the appointing authority, His Excellency the President, our nation's chief diplomat, and to interact with leadership across all arms of government. Therefore, as the representatives of our President abroad, you will receive briefs and updates on key developments in the country. Furthermore, I encourage you to share your experiences with one another in the spirit of collegiality and the collective good of our country. Notably, the conference takes place at the time of remarkable foreign policy achievements under the administration of His Excellency President William RUTO. Kenya has elevated its role in regional and global peace and security, enhanced participation in multilateral fora, advanced its niche diplomacy in climate change action, and diversified bilateral partnerships that continue to unlock development opportunities for our country. Your Excellency, through our foreign policy, we continue to advance your administration's plan by negotiating and concluding bilateral agreements that support the following pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. First, the agricultural transformation. The Kenya-China Early Harvest Agreement, concluded in March 2026, grants duty-free, quota-free access for 98% of Kenyan agricultural products into the Chinese market. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, removes tariffs on over 80% of goods, boosting trade in key agricultural exports such as tea and meat. Additional frameworks include the Kenya-EU Economic Partnership Agreement, the Kenya-Hungary Agriculture MOU, the Kenya-UK Partnership Agreement, and Kenya's engagement with the US under the African Growth Opportunity Act. On healthcare, the 2025 5-year Kenya-US Health Cooperation Framework marks a significant shift to direct government-to-government funding, strengthening programs on universal healthcare, UHC, malaria, TB, and HIV/AIDS. And today, I think in one of the main media outlets, Duale has put up a very spirited message on this particular issue. Several of these agreements are also broad in scope and contribute directly or indirectly to other better pillars, including housing and settlement, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, economy, and the digital superhighway and creative economy. Other notable agreements include Kenya-Mozambique in March 2026, which enhances digital transformation and expands opportunities for small-scale traders. The Italy Partnership, which supports youth empowerment and the creative economy in 2026. The Kenya-Ethiopia Agreement, which promotes cross-border trade and growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises. We also have the Kenya-Senegal program in 2025 October, which advances youth and sports development, among others. Your Excellency, this is a brief overview of the Ministry's contributions to your economic transformation plan. delivered not in isolation, but with the whole of government framework. As a ministry, we have made tremendous progress since the inauguration of your administration, the launch of the Kenya Foreign Policy and the Sessional Paper number 1 of 2025 presents renewed clarity in our external engagements. We have followed this milestone by adopting open diplomacy, including rolling out the Foreign Policy Mashinani initiative. This is an appreciation that Kenyan citizens, too, have a stake in advancing our foreign policy objectives. It also serves as a strategic platform to communicate our activities and achievements and mitigate against misinformation and disinformation. Your Excellency, we wanted to make sure that Kenyans are not foreign to their own foreign policy. We also have expanded our diplomatic footprint in 72 missions in strategic countries and regions. In doing so, we have ensured a more cost-effective, impactful, and strategic deployment of the limited resources at our disposal, including multiple accreditations and deployment of honorary councils. Your Excellency, your foresight in establishing for the first time in Kenya's diplomatic history a State Department for Diaspora Affairs was a transformative decision. Presently, Kenyan diaspora is at the center of government policies. Today, the safety, dignity, and welfare of our diaspora is more adequately and effectively safeguarded, despite increased cases of Kenyans in distress abroad due to the growing global turbulence. In addition to the 24-hour diaspora call center, our missions continue to provide consular services through the innovative mobile system. Your Excellency, through your support and strategic guidance, diaspora investments and remittances have vastly increased, making our diaspora a major contributor to national progress. The Diaspora Investment Support Office and the Diaspora Investment Strategy, launched in 2025, aim to enable the channeling of these remittances from predominantly household consumption to actual investments. We shall count on our ambassadors to continue engaging the diaspora on investment opportunities available back home. Finally, in today's evolving global landscape, the continent is in need of a leading voice for African agency. As our envoys, you are called to shape the direction and future of African diplomacy. We must amplify that our president is the champion of the African Union institutional reform and chair of COMESA. We must also highlight Kenya's leadership in promoting the intra-African trade and the African Continental Free Trade Area. This conference should inspire our individual and collective commitment to safeguarding our national interests and advancing Kenya's national agenda for peace-centered prosperity. Our supreme enterprise is to enhance the brand Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, I have already indicated that we have pulled His Excellency away from a very busy schedule, so I come to the end of my remarks. It is now my great honor to invite His Excellency the President to deliver his address and officially open the conference. Let us all be upstanding to welcome our President. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Jambo. We meet at a moment of profound change in the global order, an era marked by deep and often unpredictable disruptions. Today, long-standing multilateral frameworks that once anchored international cooperation are steadily eroding as new currents of unilateralism and sovereign-first doctrines emerge, reshaping both the terms and tone of engagements among nations. Recent developments, including the ongoing conflict in the Middle East, underscore how quickly tensions can disrupt economic stability. In such a moment, it is critical that we take a deliberate and collective pause to reflect with honesty and think with clarity about the world as it is becoming and our place within it. It is therefore a distinct honor for me to join you at this 19th Ambassadors Conference as you deliberate on how best to advance Kenya's interests in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. I've had the opportunity to review your program for the next 4 days of this conference, and I am impressed by the breadth and depth. It reflects a comprehensive agenda that engages the full spectrum of our diplomatic priorities, from economic diplomacy and the realities of an emerging polycentric global order to peace and security, as well as climate diplomacy and green industrialization. It also covers science, technology, and innovation, global health diplomacy, and the oceans and blue economy, among other critical areas shaping our engagement with the world. My role today, therefore, is not to delve into the operational details of diplomacy, but rather to offer at least 4 broad-based imperatives that should frame and guide your deliberations. First, I want to appreciate that Kenya today approaches this engagement with the world from a position of far greater strength than was the case 3 years ago. By any credible measure, whether economic stability, fiscal discipline, our institutional resilience, the direction is unmistakable. Kenya is not only steady, but it is also on the rise. Consider, for instance, our sovereign debt position. 36 months ago, Kenya was counted among 6 African countries widely projected to default on their foreign debt obligations. 5 of those countries defaulted. Kenya did not. This is not by chance or luck. It was the outcome of deliberate and often difficult policy choices. We undertook necessary reforms by rationalizing expenditure, streamlining our budgets, and making tough decisions, including the removal of unsustainable consumption subsidies. Today, Kenya stands as the 6th largest economy in Africa, with a GDP of approximately $136 billion, and continues to register a steady annual growth rate of about 5%. The shilling, which was once in steep decline, has stabilized and remained steady against the dollar for the last 2 years at around 129 shillings to a dollar. We have also enhanced our foreign exchange reserves that stood at 2.5 months of import cover in 2022. Now we are at 7.5 months of import cover. We have moved our foreign exchange reserves from $5.7 billion to $14.6 billion this year. And in another couple of months, we should be anywhere around $16 billion. The recent upgrade of Kenya's sovereign rating by Standard & Poor's is another clear and credible affirmation of the confidence that global markets have in the direction we have taken. Equally, we have significantly reduced inflation, which was at about 9.6%, to an average of 4.3% today, further reinforcing the stability we have worked hard to achieve. In terms of investment, despite global headwinds, our foreign direct investment inflows in 2025 for the first time crossed the $2 billion mark. And just this week, in our Kenya International Investment Conference, we signed on to new investments in Kenya of $2.9 billion in 10 counties in Kenya. Investments from the United States, from China, from Australia, from India, from the UK, and different parts of the world, demonstrating that more companies across the globe have confidence in our economy and in the investment opportunities that exist in our country. And these were in different sectors, including agriculture, real estate, manufacturing, mining, energy, ICT, and business process outsourcing. These investments undoubtedly expands opportunities for employment for our young people in Kenya and contributes to tax revenues as well as our overall development. This is what we mean when we say Kenya is ready and open for business. Today, Kenya is home to more than 300 multinational corporations. The fact that foreign investors are increasingly choosing Kenya, committing their capital, and backing our future should tell us something profound. It is a clear vote of confidence in the direction we have taken as a country, affirming that Kenya is getting our fundamentals right. Excellencies, these gains must be projected outward. This is the true measure of your work. You're called upon to articulate, position, and present to the world the full breadth of Kenya's potential, to tell our story with conviction and to translate that promise into partnerships that deliver tangible outcomes for the people of Kenya. The second point I want you to bear in mind is that this administration is firmly committed to fulfilling our commitments to the people of Kenya as is contained in our bottom-up transformation agenda manifesto. For the first time, we have demonstrated that a manifesto is not a piece of paper. It is not a newspaper. It is a document of governance and a covenant with the people. When I went to canvass leadership with the people of Kenya, we put out a very ambitious program for the development of our country. Many people thought we overpromised. In fact, last Sunday, I was somewhere in Homa Bay, and after the church service, there was supposed to be a communication by the bishops of that area. Initially, I thought it was about how they want to build the church and how they want to have more missionaries. But it was not that. It ended up being a political statement. And the bishop who read the letter on the behalf of the others said something very profound to me. He said, "Mr. President, we all believed that you had overpromised. And we knew that this was the usual politicians' talk when they are looking for votes. But," he said, "we have seen something different." And that is the case. We are re-engineering our nation, and we are re-engineering our political discourse. That what leaders promise, they must deliver. That when we make commitments, we must have the plan to execute and to make them reality. Today, I say with a lot of confidence, we made a commitment on matters education. We had 4 fundamental difficulties. We had a CBC that wasn't working. We had a shortage of teachers that was chronic. We had a shortage of learning spaces that was serious. And we had a funding model for our universities that was making our universities, crippling actually our universities, and making them insolvent. Today, we have kept our word. We have closed the gap, literally, on teacher shortage. We've hired the highest number of teachers in Kenya's history in 3 years, 100,000. And we will be hiring another 20,000 this year to make sure that every learner has a good opportunity to acquire knowledge. With partners, and on this I want to thank our friends from the World Bank and members of parliament. We have built 23,000 new classrooms, expanding learning spaces. I remember last week I was in Mount Elgon, and our friends in Safaricom, M-Pesa actually, who had invited me once to an academy here in Thika, which was their flagship. And when I went to the academy, it was a really, really high-class academy with a swimming pool, heated badminton, squash, that thing they play in squash, and all the other, fancy and very high quality stuff. But I then advised them when I went there that this is wonderful. It's giving close to 400 of our young people good opportunities to learn in a very high-end institution. But I told them they weren't making as much impact as they would if they looked beyond one academy in Nairobi. I was with them in Mount Elgon. They had built 36 classrooms, and they had built actually literally a whole school with 1,000 plus kids in Mount Elgon. And the chair of the foundation was almost shedding tears as he saw the hope they had built in very ordinary children in very remote places. I am saying this to contextualize what it means to have learning spaces. We have reorganized the whole space around competence-based education. We have engaged stakeholders afresh. Teachers did not have a clarity. Parents were complaining that they were doing too much homework at home. But finally, we have found a balance between what parents need to do, what teachers need to do, what learners need to do, and we now have a fair balance. And finally, we have put in place a funding model that is student-centered, so that we assess every student on the basis of need and merit. Today, if you ask any vice chancellor in any university in Kenya, they have a working funding model. As I said, we decided to reorganize our agriculture. We had an agricultural sector that was not run on the basis of data. So we did the first thing to register all farmers and put them on a digital platform. We subsequently undertook all other interventions on the basis of knowledge of our farmers. We now have a database of 7.2 million farmers with their acreage, with the crops they undertake, with their livestock, sugarcane farmers, tea farmers, avocado farmers, and everything else in between. And today, we have turned around our productivity. Our fertilizer subsidy program is working. And today, if you ask coffee farmers, they will tell you, we have chased all the cartels and the brokers and the middlemen. And we've done the same in our milk industry. We've done the same in our sugar industry. We've done the same everywhere else. So we have digitized our farming. We have gotten rid of cartels. We are getting it right today. And yesterday I was in Kiambu. And the coffee farmers there will tell you that coffee, which they were selling for between 50 and 70 shillings a kilo, today they are selling it at between 120 and 150 shillings a kilo. The sugarcane farmers will tell you a same story. sugarcane farmers used to be paid after anywhere between 6 months and 1 year. Today, sugarcane farmers are paid every 7 days. That is what transformation looks like in practice. So, we still have some work to do. And I'm saying this so that you don't fall prey to the shenanigans in the social media. If you read the social media, you will think Kenya is going to collapse tomorrow. We have undertaken some most consequential undertakings in the space around health. You all know, and statistics stand out with clarity, that every year close to 1 million citizens ended up in poverty because of hospital bills. And health was slowly becoming a privilege for those who can afford, rather than what Article 43 of the Constitution says, that it is a right for every citizen. That was one of the most difficult subjects we had to address ourselves to. It took us almost a year of trying to figure out how this was going to happen, but finally we passed 4 pieces of legislation, actually 5, and a 6th one is on the way, to underwrite and to underpin our health transformation. Today, we have 30 million plus Kenyans registered in SHA. The story there is very different. There are less and less harambes on matters health. We have more and more testimonies of people who are saying, SHA paid for me 20,000, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, and on and on. And this is not just in towns, in villages, and everywhere else. It is probably one of the largest undertakings that any administration has taken, because it's a very difficult space. But I am very, very confident that finally we have the right template to undertake universal health and finally make health truly a right for every citizen. We have also, by way of making sure that we do what we committed to the people of Kenya, on matters young people, you know, every family, every region of Kenya, because we are a nation of young people, have young people out of school, out of college, and they do not have jobs. And this is everywhere. You go to every town, you go to every city, you go to every village, and that's the case. And we've had this conversation many years, you know, that the economy is going to expand, and therefore we are going to create jobs. But jobs can not be created unless there is intentional, deliberate, practical interventions. So we decided to do 5 things. Number 1, we undertook the housing program, not just to have decent living conditions and housing for our citizens, but to also as a means of creating opportunities for work. As you all know, it was one of the most difficult things to do because it involved, a framework where we had to contribute. And so, if you read in the Azimio Manifesto, there was housing. In the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, there was housing. But when it came to the implementation, there was a big problem. Nobody wanted to do it. And we were taken to court, there were demonstrations, and many other things. But we stood our ground, and today I stand before you to tell you the skyline of Kenya is changing. Go to anywhere in Kenya, from Busia, I was there last week, to Kisumu, to Migori, to Kuria, Kericho, Eldoret, Kitui. I was in Makueni. In fact, in Makueni, the senator of Makueni, who has been saying nothing is happening. So when I went with him to the housing, he was shocked that it was in Wote. And not just that, we have 640,000 young people working. Architects, engineers, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, masons, and everybody in between. In fact, at some point, the debate was, William Ruto is talking about Mjengo. Can his children go and work at the Mjengo? But good people, explain to me, which is the workplace of the architect? And the engineer? And the mason? And the carpenter? So if you go to university to learn engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, and all the other engineerings, mechanical engineering, and architects, the only place you will make meaning with what you have learned is Mjengo. There is no other place. If there is no Mjengo, you are useless. It's just as simple as that. Yesterday, I was in Thika. In Thika, in Kiambu alone, we are building 18,000 housing units at a cost of 45 billion in one county. There has never been an investment of 45 billion in one project in any county in Kenya. So we are changing. Today, the contracts we have signed on using the housing fund are contracts of 640 billion across Kenya. Markets, hostels for our university, TVET and KMTC students, housing. I just handed over houses in Kapsabet. I handed over houses in Kakamega. I will be handing over houses in Kirinyaga. There are some that are ready in Ruiru. And that process will be continuing. The most fundamental thing to me is that by next year, we will have 1 million young people working in our housing program. Real people working. We also designed because we are a very tech-savvy country. So we designed a program around digital jobs and business process outsourcing. And today, in our ICT hubs, in our Jitume centers, in business process outsourcing, companies that are registered here in Kenya, and there are many. In fact, the largest business process outsourcing company in the world, called Teleperformer, just shifted to Kenya. So we have close to 300,000 people working now in that space. I remember when we were at the conference this week, one American company, ADEC, will be setting up a 2,000 person capacity in Machakos County as part of the expansion of that footprint. And many more are stepping in because our human capital is good. We speak probably some of the best English anywhere in the world. But do we say? And on and on and on. So our projection is that we should be able to appropriate at least 1 million young people working in our digital jobs space in the next between 1 and 2 years. We are extending the fiber optic because it's going to be a very important tool for that exercise around the country. We've already done 30,000 kilometers. Our plan is to have 100,000 kilometers so that business process outsourcing can be set up anywhere in Kenya. It doesn't have to be Nairobi. It doesn't have to be around Nairobi. We should be able to do that in many parts of our country. We also decided that because we have some of the best human capital in the world, that we use it as part of our export. And that is why Rosalind here has been working with me to clean up the channel for accessing jobs overseas. We had to clean up the system because we had too many brokers. We had many recruiting agencies that were crooked and defrauded many people of their money. So we have registered close to 1,000 of those companies. So we have made it leaner, and we are still reorganizing that space. But just with what we have done, including cutting down on time to access travel papers, including passports and what have you, today we have a clean channel for people who have employment opportunities abroad. Rosalind, it takes now how many days to get a passport if I have a job abroad? 2 days. That's how long it takes, between 2 and 3 days. And as a result, mark this, as a result of what we have done in the last 3 years, 540,000 Kenyans have gotten jobs abroad. And our remittance from abroad has increased by $1 billion. Yes. So, and I can go on, but that's the space we are working with the young people of Kenya, including what we are doing to access to credit, the big program we have around Nyota, which is going to benefit close to 820,000 young people with skills, with startup resources. And this is all to make our country competitive. One more thing I need to tell you is to be able to reorganize our economy. Economists will tell us, those who went to school and read economics. I did not. So it's on the basis of the information I get from them, is that investment is a function of savings. You cannot invest what you don't have. And so we decided that we need to create a bigger pool of resources through savings, especially mandatory savings. And our National Social Security Fund, which is the public savings entity, was not properly aligned. And we did this with President Uhuru in 2015, I think. But there was a lot of manenos and things. But of course, when I came into office, I said, this is one area I must correct. We did implement the changes that were necessary. Today, our country is making strides. Just for comparison, most OECD countries, their savings as a percentage of GDP is anywhere around 40–45%. China being among the highest is around 55%. Kenya is at 12%. That's how much we save. Means whatever we get, we go to the restaurant, we go to the clothes store, and it's all done. So we changed the contribution structure, and in just 2 years, we have doubled what was saved at our Social Security for 60 years. What was saved for 60 years, we have doubled in 2 years. From 312 billion shillings in 2023, in 2025, we are at 670 billion. By next year, we will be at 1 trillion. In 5 years, in 10 years, we will not be borrowing from other places. We will be building this nation using our own savings and resources. That has earned me a few enemies, but many friends. But that is the progress we are making in our nation. And we will continue. We will continue to stay focused until we redeem every commitment we made in our manifesto to the people of Kenya, so that we can demonstrate that what leaders say, they must do. Having said that, it is my expectation that the good people, because you are our face, you are our ambassadors, you are our front line, citizens, wherever it is that you are, on matters diaspora, and given the immense opportunities being created through what I've just discussed, and working closely with the State Department of Diaspora Affairs, you should give it focus with a view to expanding new markets or expanding into new markets and new territories. At the same time, I expect the bilateral frameworks governing the employment of our citizens abroad to be strong, enforceable, and genuinely protective of their rights and their dignity. The third issue, after I have said what the situation looks like, so that you are properly briefed and seized of where we are. The third issue is that where we are today is a good place, but it is not the destination where we should be. We should look further. And we have identified 3 areas that are important for us to focus on as we seek to lift our country to a first world status. And when I say lift our country to a first world status, it's not a statement. It is something that we must and should actualize, because it's possible for us to get this country to where it is, to where we should have it, rather. We have the intention, and the PS said here, that we want to make Nairobi the hub, the diplomatic hub of the world, and the commercial hub of our region. But that requires us to do some work. First, we have undertaken that we have to improve our transport and logistics infrastructure. All of you flew in from different parts of the world. You know very well, we do not have a proper airport. It is true, right? And the building of a new airport terminal has been in the works, at least as far as I remember, the last 15 years. But I just want to give you the good news that we have now the template, we have the framework, and we have already gone to tender so that we can build a new, modern airport for ourselves in Nairobi and subsequently in other parts of the country. We have to improve infrastructure around the country. As we build the Rironi-Mau Summit standard gauge, dual carriageway, before it gets to Mau Summit in April, May next year, we will have hopefully contracted the link from Mau Summit to Malaba, and we will have undertaken other transport corridors. The intention and the plan here is to do 2,500 kilometers of new dual carriageway in Kenya in the last 7 to 10 years, and to double our paved road. From independence to now, we have paved 20,000 kilometers of road or tarmac 20,000. That is in 60 years. In 60 years, Japan tarmacked 1 million kilometers. I think there is some difference between 20,000 and 1 million. I don't know whether it is small or a big difference. So what we want to do, we want to tarmac another 28,000 kilometers in Kenya in the next 10 years. And it's possible, and we're going to do it. If you go to any meeting in Kenya, somebody will ask you about a road. Anywhere. This road, and that road, and the other road, and the other road. We just have to do it. We cannot do it piecemeal. We cannot continue discussing 10 kilometers here, 20 kilometers there, 50 kilometers somewhere. We just have to have a comprehensive plan and do it, and have a plan and do it. So, and we need to sort out the port of Mombasa. We need to sort out all the other port infrastructure. That will require about between maybe 10 and 12 billion dollars. It's about 1.5 trillion or thereabout. So, but we're going to look for that money somehow. We will find it and do it. As we do that, you know, we have also to put up the facilities that can host people who want to come to Kenya. You know very well that the last serious conference facility that was done is Kenyatta International Conference Center, right? And it was started with the Harambee. The first meeting was to have a fundraising by some good Kenyans. But somehow, they managed to build it. It has served us well, but it cannot serve us going forward. And that is why we are building the Bomas of Kenya, which will be ready, by the way, in May. May this year. May this year. Yes. And with it, we have encouraged the private sector, and they've come through to do 3 big hotels, at least with a total bed capacity of 1,500 beds. You know, in Nairobi now, this is the biggest hotel facility we have. Just imagine this one. This space here where other people are standing, ndio wale wamesimama huko. We need to be serious, honestly. So, we need some real investment in hospitality industry in the country. And we are encouraging more people to come on board, and I'm very confident about the future. Whenever we have guests in Nairobi, you know, I have serious problems where to put them. Kempinski has become a small place. Intercont was shut down. The other place, Crown Uko, was shut down. And the other place. So, why? Because we didn't build the conference facility infrastructure that would help support our hotel industry. And that is why, as diplomats, now that we will have a modern conference facility in Kenya, all those meetings that are being held in all those other places should be held in Nairobi. And we are banking on you to work with us so that we can redirect serious major conference facility to our country. We will be hosting the French Africa Summit here for the first time in Nairobi. And we have so many conference facilities lined up. It's very interesting that even before the conference facility in Bomas is ready, there is a long queue of people who want to use that facility. Number two, and of course, before I finish that, we need to sort out this city. My last meeting last evening was about the city of Nairobi and what we need to do in terms of cleaning it, lighting Nairobi. Nairobi is very dark. Cleaning doing the place. We are the environmental capital of the world with UNEP here and Habitat. But if you go to Nairobi River, it has no indication that we have anything to do with environment. And so we are sorting out Nairobi River. The good news, I just want to tell you, I have a date on the 15th of January next year. We will open up Nairobi River and you will see something very different. Yes. And then we will go to Ngong River and finally have Nairobi in a good place. The second thing we must do is to deal with hunger. We are still a very hungry country. It is very shocking. There are still too many people in Kenya who sleep hungry. Too many. Of course, it's because partly it's because 85% of Kenya is arid and semi-arid, but that is not a reason, because all those arid areas have very good soils. We have enough. They may not have rain, but with harvesting and storage, we can have enough water. So the next thing we are going to do, and it's going to begin this year, we are beginning with the first 15 mega dams this year, is to do water harvesting and storage and bring at least 2.5 million acres into production. First, to make sure that every person in Kenya has food. You know, there is nothing as demeaning, as dehumanizing as a person who is hungry. So we need to deal with that. And then, of course, we are opening new markets for our products. We have concluded negotiations with one of the largest markets in the world, in China. We will now access the Chinese market duty-free, quota-free, for all our agricultural products, from tea, coffee, avocados, macadamia, and everything else. But we need to produce enough. We need to produce enough. What we are producing at the moment is not enough. We need to produce enough for us to be able to lift our economy. And finally, the third thing we need to do is to generate enough energy. We have a serious energy deficit. We have in our grid 3,300 megawatts. At the minimum, we need another 10,000. We need 3 times what we have, at the minimum, if we have to undertake the transformation that is necessary to take our country to the next level. Today, the Ministry of Energy will tell you, every evening, on some peak hours, we have to do load shedding, you know. And what that does, it undermines our economy. Let me give you an example. I was in, what was the name of that place? In Diwa, I was in Diwa someplace. So we went there to commission a transmission line, 69 kilometers of transmission line, which we had built. And the information that we were given is that just because of that transmission line, the sales, electricity consumption, actually, in that particular area, very small area, had doubled because they had reliable energy, which means there's a lot of potential out there, but it's constrained by the amount of energy that is available. Let me give you another example. I went to the US on the famous trip with President Biden when he invited me. And in this big ceremony, we signed a couple of MOUs and programs. And one of them was on data centers, you know, the technology that brings data centers on board. And we signed with Microsoft, Kenya, and a company from the UAE called G42. And I was very happy with it because it was going to be an investment of $1 billion in Kenya to set up the first ever green data center. Until I arrived in Kenya, and when the process started, I was told, Mr. President, for us to implement this project, we need 1,000 megawatts of energy. Okay? So what does that mean? That I shut down half the country to implement this one project. Because if you have 3,000 megawatts and one project wants 1,000, so it was not possible for us to implement this $1 billion project. And there are many other investment opportunities that we are losing because we do not have enough energy. And that is why we have to be innovative. All the three programs I've just said, which are really the basic minimum for us as a country to lift ourselves, requires about $40 billion or 5 trillion Kenyan shillings. That's what we need. And that is why we have, with my team, we have sat down, we have looked at what other countries have done, what has worked elsewhere, what is best practice, and we have created a channel for us to be able to do this. We have to mobilize our own domestic resources. We have to create the correct framework for us to leverage on private money. That is why public-private partnership is a big thing. We are lucky that in Kenya we have a working capital markets ecosystem. Our Nairobi Stock Exchange is one of the best assets that we have. It was the second best stock exchange in the African continent. So we have a real tool for us to be able to leverage private sector money, both locally and globally. And that is the reason why we have set up the National Infrastructure Fund, so that we can use it to mobilize domestic resources through our mature assets like Kenya Pipeline, Safaricom and others. And already the National Infrastructure Fund, we have raised the first 100 billion using the Kenya Pipeline IPO. We will raise another 2.5, at least 2 billion in the next coming months 2-3 months, and we will move on, and it will be possible for us to leverage that money, use private sector money, deploy using our capital markets, raise more resources from other sources, use our pension funds and others who have a lot of patient money, but they are lacking opportunities to invest. And that is why they are crowded at the treasury bills and buying bonds and what. So we're going to look at that space. And I'm very excited that very many people are coming forward who are very quiet. And they're saying, we have opportunity, we can support here, we have money to help you do this, we have resources. Just give us the right structure, we are going to invest. To be able to have these three work out, we need another 3 enablers. Number 1 is to up our game in science, innovation, technology, so that we can create the right caliber of people who can assist us with new knowledge on how we take our country to the next level. A country cannot develop beyond its capacity to think. Yes. Yeah, it's just as simple as that. If your thinking goes up to here, that's the end. You cannot. So, and that's why I brought this good man, Professor Shokat from IEA, to come and head our State Department for Science, Research, Innovation. Please see him. Because we need those people. We need these people who, you know, we have a good education system, but we need a higher caliber of thinkers, people who can work with us so that they can help us do the right things. Today, I am the leader of this great nation, but I can tell you, everything I have implemented, it is not just my thoughts. I have pulled a lot of knowledge from very intelligent people who are more intelligent than me. Yeah, I've had to leverage on their intelligence to be able to drive the country forward. Because it is said, wisdom cannot, and knowledge cannot fit in one head. Yeah? One head can only accommodate so much. But people have to be gracious to say there are some things I need the help of other people for us to be able to get ourselves where we want to go, right? That's why research is going to be a very big thing. We're going to deploy more resources in research. We're going to deploy more resources in science, in technology, and we are moving in that direction. That's enabler number 1, knowledge. Yes. Number 2 is security. You know, we are putting together a lot of resources. You will see in matter security, because we live in a very, you know, difficult neighborhood. We have all our countries around us, and we have real security issues. So we need to up our game. We need to modern technology. We are modernizing our police infrastructure. We are modernizing our defense infrastructure. We have to bring in new ways of doing things into the space is going to be much more intelligence-led, less about brute force, more about intelligence, more about targeting the right places. And so you will be seeing some of the areas we will be putting our resources in. And then finally, we have to reorganize our software. We need a much more patriotic nation, good people. We need to believe in ourselves. You know, you listen to some people, you think they have a spare country. They talk about Kenya as if this is our country. This is us. We must believe in ourselves. We can do it ourselves, you know? Sometimes I get amazed as to how people believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. Really? You know, I sat at this conference this week at Radisson Blu, and I listened to the country director of the World Bank talk about Kenya. I listened to one gentleman, an investor in BPO, talk about Kenya. I listened to one lady, she runs, I think, Flamingo Flower something in Naivasha, talk about Kenya. And I was amazed as to how other people think about us. They were talking about how good our human capital is, how innovative our people are, how hardworking we are as a people, you know? But you listen to some of our leaders, and some others have even the audacity to say, oh, you know, we are a failed state. Really? Where? You know? And you want to be a leader in this country. You want to be a leader of a failed state? Anyway. So, good people. And I will tell this to the people of Kenya proudly. We are a great nation. We are a great people. We can do it. Let us believe in ourselves. Let us stop the negativity. Let us stop the negativity about our country. Let's project the reality of who we are, you know? And I think we need more about our patriotism, our belief in ourselves, our belief in our nation, and that is really going to make a hell lot of a difference. But slowly, I think we are getting ourselves there, slowly. There are people who are saying nothing is happening in Kenya. Today, their voices are going down because they can see something is happening in our country. And we will continue to push the limits, and I will continue to lead from the front. I will continue. So let me, I think I've been carried away a bit, but let me say this. I really needed to talk to you because you are the people who will talk about our country out there. Please project the right image of our nation. You know, let's get the right image of Kenya. Kenya is not about chaos. Kenya is not about destruction. Kenya is not about all those other things. We are a serious nation, very serious nation. And many people believe in us. Just for the record, G7 is going to have its meeting shortly. Yeah? And the chair of the G7 this year is going to be France. And they have invited Kenya to speak on behalf of this continent. That is how serious we are. So please, let us believe in ourselves. Finally, you should know with clarity that Kenya will remain firmly committed to playing its leadership role as a regional, continental, and global participant. We are proud and responsible members of the international community, and we will continue to act with purpose in shaping a more just, inclusive, and effective global order. In response to evolving global realities, we will pursue a principled and pragmatic foreign policy. We will engage partners across all regions on the basis of mutual respect and shared benefit, while remaining steadfast in advancing our sovereignty, preserving our strategic autonomy, and securing our long-term national interest. We will persist in defending multilateralism while championing the reform of multilateral institutions, including the United Nations Security Council, so that they become more representative, more responsive, and truly fit for purpose. Nairobi, as the only United Nations headquarters in the Global South, carries both prestige and responsibility. Kenya must therefore work with other countries, especially in the Global South, to ensure that their voice, perspectives, and priorities are effectively advanced in the international fora. We look forward to hosting, as I said, 2 landmark global engagements that will underscore Kenya's growing role as a convener of consequential international dialogue. In May, we will host the Africa-France Summit, the first to be held outside the Francophonie, providing a strategic platform to reframe Africa's partnership with France in trade, investment, and industrial cooperation on the basis of parity and mutual respect. In June, Kenya will also host the 11th Our Oceans Conference in Mombasa and Kilifi, the first ever on African soil, bringing together governments, civil society, and the private sector to advance marine conservation, the blue economy, climate resilience, and ocean governance, while creating real opportunities for our communities and for our economies. I expect you, dear people, to actively participate, amplify Kenya's voice, and help build momentum for our global engagements with a focus on Kenya's national interest. Thank you very much. Let me reiterate as I conclude, when called upon, Kenya will continue to rise to the occasion in support of global peace and security. Our leadership in international and regional engagements, such as the deployment of our police officers to Haiti, and active involvement through the AU and other regional organizations in the DRC, South Sudan, Somalia, and elsewhere reflects our steadfast commitment to global stability, solidarity, and shared responsibility. As the champion of the reform of the African Union institutions, we will continue to actively advance this agenda of strengthening the AU's institutional capacity and strategic relevance. We are equally committed to deepening regional integration as a cornerstone of our foreign policy. Kenya will continue to advance cooperation within the East African community, while also strengthening engagements through the common markets for Eastern and Southern Africa. At the continental level, we will remain strong supporters of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, alongside other regional peace, trade, and infrastructure initiatives that enhance connectivity, expands markets, and promotes shared prosperity across Africa. On climate action, Kenya remains at the forefront of continental leadership. As the chair of the Committee of African Heads of States on climate change, we are driving our continent's collective voice and ambition in global climate negotiations. Our foreign policy framework, set out in Sessional Paper number 1 of 2025, is anchored on a whole of government and a whole of society approach. Our diplomacy must remain rooted in everyday interests of Kenyans, the farmer seeking better prices, the worker abroad in need of protection, and the entrepreneur seeking access to new markets. I urge you to believe in our great nation and to serve it with unwavering dedication. You occupy positions of both high privilege and responsibility. As we work here at home to transform our country, you are the face, you are the voice, and the standard of Kenya beyond our borders. I call upon you to embody that responsibility with integrity, conviction, and a deep sense of purpose. With these remarks, it is my distinct pleasure to declare the 19th edition of Ambassadors Conference open, and I thank you.
Let's have a seat. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Your Excellency, for your elaborate and visionary statements. I know that my sister, Rosaline Jogo, is going to give a vote of thanks. But ahead of her doing that, with utmost humility, Your Excellency, indulge us to listen to a brief presentation on what we are doing, just to give you a foretaste of what we are doing on digital infrastructure for commercial diplomacy from Felix Shege, the founder and CEO, Real Sources Africa, and Dr. James Mwangi, the Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Equity Group Holdings. Let's put our hands together first to Felix and then to Dr. James. Thank you very much.
Ensures that trade and investment prospects are documented, monitored, and pursued systematically.
Our main goal is having one particular ecosystem that can leverage on the trust and the credibility that has been built over time through our missions to be able to drive trade, investment, financing, labor, and most importantly, to be able to move these functions.
While we begin with our missions, our ambition is continental. We see this as a shared infrastructure for African cooperation, and we invite our sister countries to join us in this journey.
Thank you so much. Just standing on all protocols, so I'd like to just make a brief presentation on basically what we're doing with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Your Excellency, allow me to give you a brief story. In 2024, we rolled out a very ambitious initiative by the name Trade Connect. Our goal was trying to see how best we could export 1,000 containers over a period of 12 months. Having done 315 containers along the way, we realized a few challenges. One of the major challenges was basically unstructured demand. Second challenge
was poor policy clarity, deal assurance, limited access to market, and finally, aspects to do with weak sustainable market presence. But most importantly, we realized this, that most of our traders, most of our SMEs, investors, first go to embassies to seek for either information about Kenya as a country before they really look at coming into the country. We realized that our embassies collect an average of 3,500 inquiries every month, but less than 1% of these inquiries are actually executed. Meaning that as a country, the opportunities are there, people are interested to access these opportunities, but unfortunately we do not have the digital infrastructure to enable us to structure and actually implement some of these inquiries. In partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we went ahead to develop digital platforms, one by the name Biashara Link. Biashara Link is a digital platform that looks at trying to capture these inquiries digitally from our embassies, being able to structure them, and finally supporting the execution and having a scientific or a data-driven approach to how we are running our policy work or how we're able to guide on which markets we need to target for our SMEs. That is the Biashara Link. The main capabilities of the Biashara Link is to capture, to validate, to track, and close each and every inquiry that comes from our missions, and to make sure that the economic diplomacy agenda for the Republic of Kenya is actually achieved. After all these inquiries are captured, we have to close, we have to execute, and we build the Deal House. The Deal House supports 6 structured processes which looks at validating these inquiries, structuring these inquiries, matchmaking these inquiries with the SMEs or counterparties, supporting negotiations through a deal room, and finally supporting the closure of these inquiries. These inquiries, we well know, will have to have a human component to support execution. In partnership with the University of Nairobi, we came up with a program of entities or individuals called deal stewards. These are orchestrators. These are individuals who handhold and guide each and every inquiry, support with the advisory of just making sure that these entities or who are making these inquiries are able to get the support that is required. At the moment, Your Excellency, we've been able to roll this out. We have 70 young people who've been supporting execution of these inquiries. We've trained 150 and currently looking at deploying 1,000 of them before the end of the year. At the sidelines of the AU Heads of State Summit, in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we were able to deploy this out. We were able to make a presentation towards a couple of ministers across the continent, and the reception was actually immense. The output of what we're trying to achieve, Your Excellency, is to support your agenda. How can we create more jobs? Through creating demand for our exports. How can we increase our industrialization via supporting the demand that needs to be created? And finally, but not least, is how can we create more job opportunities for our young people? Last but not least, Your Excellency, in this case, I gave a story, or I was presenting a story of David and Goliath. In this case, Your Excellency, I present to you the sling. You as being the David, the sling itself being the Biashara Link, our embassies being the stones, and seeking your guidance as we sling these out towards the other African countries, and with your stewardship as the chair of the AFCFTA Implementation Committee under the AFCFTA. This is one of the initiatives, Your Excellency, that we're looking at using to be able to connect the entire continent and really push the AFCFTA agenda forward. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Presidential protocols observed. Infrastructure alone is not sufficient. Essentially, we have partnered with Trade Connect to layer the payment layer on top of the infrastructure. We have signed with the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat to be their operationalization partner for trade. But broadly, what we do is an interoperable payment layer, such that it's not about goods moving and services moving, it's ensuring the completion of transaction. On top of that, Your Excellency, we have layered a layer of financial products, trade finance products, so that truly we facilitate, we ensure that trade has no barriers. Essentially, Your Excellency, we have also done financial products. How can we create warehouses? As Felix said, we want this system to have African Continental Free Trade Area into Kenya, into Mombasa, into Nairobi. But how do we ensure we have the infrastructure you talked about? So Equity has also committed to build the warehouses such that once we identify what goods are required in the market, Kenyan entrepreneurs can import them and then distribute for the rest of the market. Your Excellency, I think where and I'm glad that we are given a chance to speak in your presence, was to seek that we partner with the Kenyan ambassadors. We give them a dashboard such that they really receive the trade inquiries from the countries they represent you. They key them on the system, and we receive that from home and respond appropriately. Mr. President, we can't assign your diplomats responsibility without you. Maybe the truth be told is that we are introducing a KPI to the diplomats on performance on promoting trade. I listened to Kindry as His Excellency spoke, and the subject matter I thought he could talk about the whole time was about geopolitics. He spent only 1 minute on geopolitics and quickly segued to the economic and trade diplomacy. And essentially, then that's what we are really creating the platform. If I summarize broadly what he talked about, he went quickly to the state of our economy, whether it is reserves, whether it's months of import held in reserves, whether it's the investment of the 2.9, whether it's the GDP and the size of the economy. Kenyans leverage and improve the quality of their lives on economic activities happening within the country. It's the economic activities that create employment. It's economic activities that create wealth. And if we could give you support to be the face of the country in promoting export. The reserves he talks about is in foreign currency. We only earn it if we trade or we receive investment. Your Excellency, that is where we thought we could. But I think it touched me when you talked about savings. It's something that we have never really appreciated, that a country can never be better than its savings, because the maximum you can invest is equal to the maximum you can save. Your Excellency, you are very generous. Before you became president, the savings to GDP ratio was 8. It has increased from 8 to 12. And you can imagine what that will mean. When we can peak, I guess my data, yours is 55 for China, mine is 53. So it's 53 or 55 is the same broadly. But you can see what it has done for the last 30 years. I think Singapore is at 54 savings to GDP, and that is what really fuels the investment. It is really great to see the investment the president have talked about. And I'm glad the foreigners are investing. But unfortunately, the truth is, the return to those investments will not be Kenyans. And would stabilize our foreign exchange, because every time at the end of the year dividend is declared, we have to look for foreign currency to remit the dividend. We Kenyans must rise and be the owners of investments in our country. There is no shortcut to it. There is no shortcut. Lastly, Your Excellency, Mr. President, let me give a few examples of what I have seen truly as diplomatic convergence of diplomacy and trade and commerce. On Thursday, I was very privileged to be invited at state lunch. And when the president walked in with his guest, the president of Mozambique, the first business of the order was come close to where I was seated and introduced me and said, open a door for this young man to establish equity in Mozambique. That was the first order of, and truly, Your Excellency, just to report, on the week of 27th of April, I've been given an appointment. You can't, as a business person, you can't get such an appointment. In a country, you have no connections if you don't use our High Commissioner or our ambassador. That's the only way. What did that that just one introduction do? It gave me trust. I was endorsed by my country. I'm going representing a country. And that's really what the diplomats, that's the favor. I must say, Your Excellency, when we signed with Felix about partnership, I said, the first thing is to look for a trade hub that we could really anchor this global dashboard on. And we settled on UAE. I'm glad, Your Excellency, that when I went to UAE to ask for your ambassador, invited all the ambassadors of the region, here he starts, for lunch and tell them, we are opening a hub. It was not a Kenyan hub. It was a regional hub. And you can see that how difficult it could have been for me to invite ambassadors. Let me close, Your Excellency, and I apologize because we talked with the PS. You have worked very highly with France, and you, the France First Conference in Kenya on France-Africa Summit is happening. And together we have been working around and saying, what would this mean to Kenya from a business point of view? Your Excellency, the French government has appointed me to be the chair of the private sector and lead the private sector to come to Nairobi. But that is not the sweet thing, Your Excellency, because we have pushed it to Ambassador. What will be left in Kenya? And Your Excellency, I don't know, there's something I thought you could be project. I went to France and said, what will we really make money on that France understand? And we said, what about if we made tea, convert tea from a commodity to a lifestyle? And we worked with the Validity, the largest tea importer of specialty tea. And we brewed with Kenyan tea in form of wine. Then we invited them here. We created 16 specialty teas. Your Excellency, we have offered that during the state dinner on that day, you allow us to mix French wine and Kenyan tea for toasting. And in partnership between the private sector and the public sector, Your Excellency, and we could be willing to sponsor the entire dinner in appreciation of fronting the tea farmers. When we did the 16 products, we ended up negotiating a price of between $80 and $100 per kilo. That will be about 3,000 to 4,000 shillings per kilo of green tea. And broadly, what they will be willing to sign on that day is to open 249 shops in Europe to all stock Kenyan specialty tea. Your Excellency, you have done very well. The tea is now 100 plus shillings per kilo, but this transaction would make the Kenyan tea trade at between 3,000 and 4,000 shillings per kilo. But it will require us to do the GI, or geographical identity. We need to pass the law, and then the president of France has said he would toast with you. He will be holding the Kenyan tea, he will be holding and say, an alternative to wine, to French wine is the Kenyan tea. And Mr. President, now you will not be toasting with water. You will be so using it. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mwangi is a hard act to follow. So, Your Excellency, allow me to stand on protocols already established. I am just here to move a vote of thanks. It is not customary for us to speak after you have spoken, sir, but I'm told there's always time for Thanksgiving. So allow me to give thanks. I'm honored really to move this vote of thanks, Your Excellency, following your amazing and very impactful address that has called us all to action around your 4 imperatives. Imperative that when we project Kenya, we do so from a place of strength, that the Kenyan government is committed to its people through the better plan. You've given us your 3 focus areas as we move towards the first world. And finally, Your Excellency, you have told us that we continue to be committed to leadership in the international community, showing the world how to do this. Your Excellency, allow me then to thank you for this amazing speech, because we have received our marching orders. Have we received our marching orders or not? Hata tukifunga conference sasa, Your Excellency, I am not proposing that we do. But even if we did, Your Excellency, we have our marching orders. It is clear. We have been called by our capital, and we have instructions on how to proceed. We are grateful, Your Excellency, for your leadership. You lead with commitment. You lead with a clarity of vision. And not just, Your Excellency, in leading on national interests, but in leading in calling your people together to make sure that they have understood where it is that you want us to do. And we are very grateful for that. I think we can clap for His Excellency for that. Your Excellency, I want to thank my boss, Waziri PCS, who leads with heart and finds time to delve into things at depth. I want to thank my brother, PS Singoe. Your Excellency, you said that Kenyans speak the best English anywhere in the world. Case in point, I want to thank my brother, PS Singoe, who's not just fluent in English, but fluent in diplomacy. I want to thank Your Excellency, the partners who are here, Felix Chege and Dr. James Mwangi, for the amazing work of conducting the work that we do here with private sector. I want to thank our ambassadors, high commissioners who are here, Your Excellency. This is, as you said, frontline officers, our team on the ground. And sir, I can confirm, and allow me to do so, because it is not every day that people get to speak to you about these people. But let me say, Your Excellency, you have a good team on the ground. Wameelewa kazi. And I say that because they carry the flag with honor, with dignity, and they serve not just our country, but our diaspora with much commitment. Many of them do call me, well, after midnight, Your Excellency, when there are challenges around the diaspora. They are very committed, and I really want to acknowledge all of you in front of our bosses here. I want to finally thank the organizers of this conference. I know there's a team that has worked very hard to put this together. I want to thank them because ukiona vyaelea vimeundwa, and the entire team of the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, who are really the people who make this work. And finally, Your Excellency, colleagues, I want to thank God for allowing us all to gather here, because in Him we move and have our being. Mike, yes? Mike, maybe you can give us now instructions around what to do next. Thank you very much. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, PS Roslyn. Your Excellency, with your permission, we are coming to the end of this session. We just seek your indulgence for a few photos, and because of time, we'll do them in regions. So with your permission, Your Excellency, allow me to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary and the 2 PSs, PS Singoe and PS Roslyn, to come on stage. Then we'll start with Africa. And this is